Hello there, midlife mavens. My name is Dr. Leah. I'm a board-certified gynecologist and menopause specialist, and today I'd like to share with you 5 ways to boost your health. This is my SCANR method, which includes a spiritual practice, connections with meaning, activity, nutrition, and rest. And today I'm going to teach you how to do these things in 30 seconds, 2 minutes, several of them combined in 10 minutes or less. I'm also going to cover in nutrition carbohydrates, how you can have your cake and eat it too. So let's get started. First, we're going to start with a spiritual practice. So what is a spiritual practice? Well, it can mean a lot of things. A lot of people conflate it with religion, which can be a component of a spiritual practice, but a spiritual practice can be something like setting an intention, being connected to nature. It can definitely include religion. It can include prayers, meditation, and a whole host of other things. So something very simple that I do is I start my day off with a prayer or intention before I even get out of bed. So that might be, I will not rush today. It may be, I will seek to understand and not to judge. For a while, my prayer to the universe was, Dear universe, please give my boss everything he deserves. Then I get up and I read from one of 2 devotionals, sometimes both. 2 that I read on a regular basis include Melanie Beattie's The Language of Letting Go and another group of readings from Adult Children of Alcoholics. I highly recommend both of these. Most people have some sort of codependency in their family, and whether or not you grew up in an alcoholic home, many of us had chaotic lives, whether it was being shuffled around with divorced parents, family in the military, a parent that had some sort of addiction, might not have been alcohol, or kind of mental disorder. So these are really quick, take 15 seconds to read and can really help set the tone for the day. The reason I do all of this first thing in the morning is because in the morning, your brain waves are still receptive because you're still asleep to subconscious types of thoughts and affirmations and things like that. Also, just starting your day, immediately going to your to-do list and checking emails and all of that just immediately shoots up your cortisol. Other things that you can do for spiritual practice are journaling. I have a 5-minute journal where you can go in the morning and in the evening and see what happens during your day, practice gratitude. I have a gratitude chain that I'm on with several of my friends that we send daily. I also will write affirmations on my mirror. So I rotate those depending on what I need to work on or what I'm asking the universe for, and it absolutely works. In addition to that, I have a list of different affirmations that I post on my refrigerator and that I cycle through on my phone as well. It is very important that you know that you can actually start your day over any time. And so with a spiritual practice, whether that's some breathing exercises, whether that's affirmations, whether that's just taking a time out, you can reset your day. And that goes a long way because so many things happen during the day to put us off track. Next, we're going to cover connections. So connections with meaning. And I say that because hitting the like on your friend's Facebook or Instagram is not being connected. A connection means another being, and that could be an animal, it could be a mentor, it could be a coworker. It doesn't have to be face to face. It could be on your phone talking, but it does need to have an actual interaction. And what this does is not only lower our cortisol, it increases oxytocin. There's multiple benefits here. And we are social creatures. If we learned nothing from COVID, it was how horrible isolation was for us all. I do recommend that you find somebody to mentor you. If there is somebody out there that you want what they have, then hit them up and see what you can do to be around them and emulate them. I also recommend the flip side, mentoring other people and doing service work. There is no better way to make you forget about what's going on in your head than to be of service to other people. Also, pick up the phone and call a friend. Develop that sisterhood. Find out what your friend is doing, and I guarantee you when you get off the phone, you'll be happy with your own problems and not theirs. So next, we'll move to activity. I did a video on this with Kelly Workman, so I'm not going to go over it in great detail, but you can get benefit in as little as 2 minutes for multiple activities. This may include being on the trampoline, the little mini trampoline for 2 minutes. This might include some breathing exercises, which is really important. So taking a break with breath work is a wonderful activity. Let's say that something's upset you. Let's say you're just running around and you need to calm down your nervous system. A very easy way to do that is to emulate when someone's crying. So that would be taking 2 breaths in short and 1 out. There's also boxed breathing. There's 4, 5, 6 breathing, where you can take in a breath for 4 seconds, hold it for 5, and exhale for 6. That's especially helpful for when you wake up in the middle of the night. Alternatively, if you're wanting to stimulate your brain, there's a couple of easy ways to do that. And that includes hyperventilation. You can actually start breathing really quickly to help get more oxygen to your brain. Pretending to yawn. So you can actually do several pretend yawns until you spontaneously yawn. And that gets more oxygen to the brain and wakes you up. Just taking a break. So sitting up straight, looking up, and smiling makes your brain alert and increases the serotonin in your brain. That's effortless. That takes 30 seconds and it can make all the difference. So another wonderful activity is a far infrared sauna plus or minus a cold plunge. So let's say that you have done your resistance training and your cardio for the week, or let's say you have an injury or whatever. You can actually get cardiac workout with an infrared sauna. Far infrared sauna is the best if you have it, if you have access to one. It has multiple benefits. You can look this up on YouTube for other videos. I absolutely love it. I do it, and I also do the cold plunge afterwards. But sometimes I'll just take a cold shower, which I've worked up to as well. It is exhilarating. I mean, you definitely wake up, but it's also this sense of well-being, not necessarily euphoria, but well-being and calm and all of the other benefits that these two modalities can give for you as well. Dr. Susan and I have videos on glucose metabolism and burning belly fat and whatnot, but I'll just remind you that if you do your activities, that is when you're going to be able to shunt glucose or carbohydrate directly into your meals. So in midlife especially, we want to do at least 2, if not 3 days of resistance training. Decrease the cardio for those of you that are doing 6 days of that and swap it for some resistance training, because we need to build our muscle mass at this stage of our life. But that is also where you're going to want to eat as much protein as you can, and also go ahead and do those carbohydrates. Okay, so now we have the N for nutrition. Again, Dr. Susan and I have done several videos on this, but I see a lot of people in my practice for this. And basically, if you are eating minimally processed, so that is things that don't come in a bag or a box or have a barcode necessarily, organic, it absolutely matters, non-GMO, not genetically modified, wild caught, pasture raised, humanely raised, it all makes a huge difference. Farm raised salmon and trout and conventional eggs are some of the most toxic things that you can put in your body. If you don't already know this, they actually feed the salmon red dye tablets and the chickens yellow dye tablets, which are carcinogens in themselves, because they would literally be gray, the meat and the yolks, without that. You can look this up, but that is number 1. Number 2, for midlife especially, getting about a gram of protein per ideal body weight is important, because we're trying to not only build but maintain muscle mass. So I have a lot of patients that are really struggling with this, and I say do your best, but here's a few little hacks. 1 is to use bone broth to hydrate instead of water. 2 is to use boiled eggs, nuts, and seeds as your snacks, or jerky, again, sugar-free jerky, and if sodium is not an issue for you. The other thing that's really a great snack is organic, non-GMO edamame. Soybeans are incredibly good for you. This myth out there that men are going to grow breasts or that it causes breast cancer is just a myth. Soy is active on the beta receptor in the breast and not the alpha receptor. It's also incredibly good for your heart. There's tons of studies on this. So, and soybeans can be frozen. They're an anytime snack. Also, soy milk. It's a wonderful way to get extra protein in your smoothie or shake or whatever you're doing. It's 8 grams a cup. So those are some hacks there. As far as the protein powders and collagen powders, great for adding into your yogurts or whatever that you're preparing, but please look at the ingredients. This is really hard. These need to be clean. You also need to know that it's being processed through water filtration and not benzene. Benzene is an extraction method that is cancer-causing compound. So this is where it's tough, but for example, use Orgain. I get it at Costco. I've used it for years. They have the powder in a shake, but there are others. So just do a little bit of research there. Prebiotics and probiotics. So this is just fiber and fermented foods. So important. Also, if it's available for you, I do highly recommend trying a continuous glucose monitor. These will be over the counter in June or July, supposedly. For right now, for whatever reason, a prescription is required, which is frustrating. But if you are having problems with insulin resistance, or if you're interested in just knowing, which I'm telling you, you'll be surprised when you put one of these on to see what affects your glucose and what doesn't. Basically, you can kind of just titrate things. So I had a patient the other day who was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea my steel cut oats were making my glucose levels soar. And so now I can only have a quarter of a cup where she was having a cup before. So these are important things to find out. Again, you can see some of Dr. Susan and I's other videos, but the next thing that's important for nutrition is iodine. Unless you live in Japan, the vast majority of us are deficient in this incredibly important nutrient. Not only is it important for our thyroid, it's important for breast health, prostate, pancreas, uterus, skin tag formation, and so much more. So now the part that you've all been waiting for. How do you eat your carbs? Well, are your carbs naked, or are they dressed in a fiber coat? Because if they have a fiber coat, which is usually peel, then they're going to be processed by your body differently. So you don't have those glucose and then insulin spikes and the hormonal changes that come along with that. You can also dress your carbohydrate in a fat hat or a protein suit, and that will slow down the absorption of sugar. And again, the insulin response and the hormonal changes that can linger after that. So can you have cake? Can you have cookies? Can you have ice cream? You can, in moderation, but the way to do it is after you've eaten fiber, protein, and fat, because again, it will slow down the sugar absorption in your body, which completely changes the hormonal responses overall. So what are some other hacks that you can use? Well, if you're a banana lover, then pick a green banana. Completely different responses in your body. Try eating some raw sweet potatoes. I do it all the time. I slice them up really thinly with either my mandolin or by hand. I actually make sweet potato toasts as well. I just put them in the toaster and toast them, and I'll have them with some nut butter, and it's all melty and gooey and it's delicious. I'll also use those sweet potato toasts in lieu of crackers. I'll make sweet potato chips in my air fryer. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do there. But speaking of potatoes, if you want to eat potatoes and rice and pasta, even if you cook it and cool it, you can turn it into a more resistant starch. So then when you eat it the second time, and you can make it into something else if you want, like hash browns or a stir fry, or just reheat it, then it's also going to have less of an impact on your insulin levels. So try that trick. Beans, legumes in general are resistant starch, and they're more slowly absorbed into the digestive system. Also, there's something called the second meal effect. So you can use this to your advantage. For example, if I have a high fiber lunch, including maybe a small portion of beans or lentils or something like that, then my bacteria and my digestive system are already going to be utilizing carbohydrates, and my insulin will be at a certain level. So if I then have dinner with some carbohydrates as well, I'm not going to have this huge spike in my glucose and insulin. Alternatively, let's say my lunch only consists of some steak and a small portion of salad, which truly just some greens don't have a ton of fiber in them. So I had pretty much a no carbohydrate lunch. If I then have some potatoes with my dinner, I'm going to see a very big spike in my glucose and insulin levels. So you can kind of use this to see if you're having those spikes too. I commonly see my patients say that I have such low total carbohydrates in the day, and I believe them, but it's sometimes the kind of the carbohydrate and the timing of the carbohydrate that can cause those insulin spikes. Again, great time to eat some of the more carbs or some of the starchier carbs is after that resistance training or even after a cardio workout. So this brings us to rest. Sleep hygiene. Can't emphasize this enough. It's so simple, but it's not easy. You know, I too want to binge watch a show and it not be tomorrow sometimes, but please, please, please just start somewhere. Even if you make 1% change a day in 90 days, which is what it takes to solidify a habit, you've made a 90% difference in your life. So going to bed at a consistent time, no screens an hour, let's say 30 minutes even before, cold, dark, quiet room. If you have a bed partner and they're snoring or they're keeping you awake, I empower you to get a Tempur-Pedic mattress so they're not pushing you around at night, but B, I empower you to sleep in a separate bedroom. And if they need to get something seen about for their health, about their snoring, or if they decide to drink or whatever it is, set some boundaries. Your health is very, very important. Also, for those of you who wake up at 2:30 in the morning to go pee, or for whatever reason like I do and have a difficult time falling back asleep, there's a couple of things that you can do. I have L-theanine in liquid form on my dresser, and I will take full dropper of my L-theanine, and that helps me go back to sleep. I also will practice the 4-5-6 breathing that I talked about earlier, where you inhale for 4, hold for 5, exhale for 6. I do this because it slows down my heart rate, which allows me to go back to sleep. Another thing that I sometimes will do is I'll actually get up and I will do yoga nidra, which is basically deep rest. And if I don't fall back asleep, then I've at least benefited from changing my brain waves, and I do get rest, which counts for something. Some other things that you can do are not to take certain things before you go to bed. So cut off food intake at 3 hours before bedtime. If your goal is 3, you'll probably hit 2. This absolutely makes a difference for your deep sleep, heartburn, having to wake up and use the bathroom, etc. You can also try avoiding alcohol at all, because it does decrease your deep sleep. It also makes you pee in the middle of the night. It also causes rebound anxiety and more. But if you can push that alcohol to earlier in the evening, again, at least 3 hours before bedtime. Benzodiazepines, that's the class of Valium, Xanax, Ativan. Long term, they have been linked to dementia. Short term, when they wear off, they also cause rebound anxiety, and they decrease your deep sleep. Deep sleep is where we get growth hormone and we repair our bodies. So something you can change out for that is L-theanine. L-theanine works on the same receptors, but it's not addictive. You can also try GABA. Capital G, capital A, capital B, capital A. It's an inhibitory neurotransmitter, actually. You can try magnesium. Magnesium is good for your body in general. I personally take magnesium bisglycinate. I have 400 milligrams at night. I take 200 in the morning. You can take the L-threonate version as well. Just know that citrate with a C is more for constipation. Other options are some of the different sleep aids that include a mixture of these things. We have one in our office called Sleep Formula that contains GABA, melatonin, magnolia bark, valerian, L-theanine, and that can be very helpful. I do caution people on taking big doses of melatonin for long periods of time, especially if you're struggling with hormones, because melatonin in large doses could actually decrease your testosterone. On the other hand, it is a very powerful antioxidant, so you can talk to your doctor about that. And then progesterone. So there's 2 different forms of progesterone. There is the immediate release kind, which many of us are on in midlife. It has a multitude of benefits. It's not just for protecting the uterus. It makes me crazy that people say that. But there's also the sustained release form, which I've been trying for the past 2 weeks. And I have to tell you, it has helped me a great deal. So you can also talk to your doctor or menopause provider about that as well. And rest includes taking breaks. So we already kind of went over this, but we absolutely need to take breaks at least every 90 minutes. 30 seconds, 2 minutes, get up and walk around, stretch, breathe, meditate, do an inversion. One of my favorite things to do. I'll do them right in the office. But you can also use brainwave apps. You can use alpha brainwaves, gamma, theta, depending on what your needs are. These absolutely work, and you do need just pure brainwaves and without the music in the background. So rest can also include taking a vacation, taking at least one day off a week. We do need to reset, and I promise you will be far more efficient and your life will improve. So now, how do we combine some of these things and get a 3-for-1 boost? Well, you can walk outside with a companion. That's right. That's 3 things right there. So that's activity, connection. It can be a spiritual experience, and you're probably going to get some rest afterwards as well. Gardening. So growing something is absolutely a spiritual experience. It might be something as simple as broccoli sprouts, which I do, but being outside and getting on the ground in the dirt is really literally grounding for us. But you could also try doing a community garden if you're not good at gardening. You get to connect with people, and guess what? You're going to get some wholesome food, whether it's herbs or tomatoes or whatever it is. So give it a try. Do something new. That's also great for your brain. There's many 2-for-1 activities you can do while brushing your teeth, while sitting on the couch, while standing in line. Kelly Workman and I did a video on this, so I can attach the link to that for you to see. Last thing I want to talk about is mindset. So remember, all you have to do is make a small change. You don't have to do everything all at once. And in fact, if you do, you're less likely to succeed. Remember, 90 days to change a habit. If you just change 1% every day, and even if you don't do it every day, you're still going to improve overall. And think about that. And lastly, think about what you want, not what you have to do. And make a list of all the things you can have. This is not about leading a life of deprivation. It's about leading a life of abundance. So thank you for joining me today. Please hit the like or subscribe button. And remember, knowledge is power and you are powerful. Until next time, Leah Antonevich, thank you so much. Bye-bye.